I'm Derek Elliott of Harts Workshop at the other end of town. This is a commission from the Guild of Handicraft Trust. They wanted a silver vase making for their exhibition in Court Barn. So we had a look through the design books and based it on one of Ashbee's original designs. It's a little bit different, but you can't go copying things all the time. It uses lots of Ashbee's favourite motifs, obviously the gilt pink, and a bit of chasing on it round the base, and some semi-precious stones as well. So it all ties in nicely with the workshop and the trust as well. Well, I mean, basically it's just, you've got all your patterns drawn out from the original drawing. So once you've got all the developments and all the shapes that you've got, just literally pencil them out onto the sheet of silver. Well, you don't pencil out these days, you've got to draw it on with a pen because they're plastic coated, the sheet. So draw it on with a pen, and away you go with a very fine saw, cut it all out, keep it nice and flat, and hopefully you don't break too many blades. The next stage is to bend the development of the tube up, or the tapered tube up. Just rubber mallet it round a former, just to get the two edges meeting. It's very soft. You can bend it round with your hands most of the time. Now you've got soldering up the joint on the main body of the vase. It's quite a long joint, got to be done with hard solder. Lots of heat needed, 820 degrees I think, something like that, to get the solder to run. Pretty hot stuff, and it's got to be right, because if the first joint isn't right, you're in trouble all the way. Yeah, there goes the solder. At one end, a little bit the other, then join up in the middle. Just more annealing. We've got to anneal it all over now, make sure it's all the same temperature. It's harder in one place than it is in the other if it's not the same hardness or softness. End up with a wonky vase, and we can't have that. Next stage, give it a good belt on the tool. You've got to get it in the right place on the tool, and you've got to make sure that you hit it in the right place to get this trumpet shape that you're trying to get. So it's a rough process to beat the bejesus out of it. So as you can see, it sort of comes up into a trumpet shape. It's like spinning a bit of clay on a pot. It's the same process. You just have to move your hands and hammer at the same time. That's it. This is a process called raising. You got to it's called raising the shape into it. You have to. It looks very hard and rough work on a piece of silver, but it's so malleable. It'll do what it's told most of the time. This is the planishing process. It's just getting all those bad marks out that you put in the first place, and you pick the hammer you want, or you pick the hammer with the correct. It'll give it a correct hammer mark for the job. This one's quite a bold hammer mark, quite an arts and crafts hammer mark, if you like. You see, just work your way to the top, joining up all the hammer marks. Every hammer mark has to overlap the previous hammer mark. So it's like mowing the lawn. If you miss a bit, you get a little ridge. The old boy who taught me, Henry, he said lots of little ones are much better than just a few big ones, and he's absolutely right. This is just lining in the base. The base of the vase is being chased with a sort of a floral design with a few stones set in it. So we've got to line out the chasing. Just punch it in with a very blunt chisel, if you like. That just lines it out. This is piercing out all the excess silver that's not needed, so it gives it a much more delicate form. If you didn't pierce all those bits out, it'd look very heavy. So it just gives it a little bit more finesse, if you like. Not an everyday object. This is the trust pink. Make sure we get this emblem right, seeing it's the trust emblem. So we're just lining it in, making sure every leaf looks right. Getting a bit of texture into the leaves as well. Come out better than I thought it would, the pink, actually. I've never chased a decent pink yet, and I've done a few, but this one come out the best. This is putting the base onto the body. It's got to put plenty of flux on there to keep the air away from the joint, so the solder will run nicely. It's got to get up to red hot, which is 700 odd degrees, so you've got to be a bit careful, because the base will heat up a lot quicker than the body. So you put all the heat into the body and not the base. But like I say, soldering, this is a time when things can go badly wrong if you don't watch what you're doing. Soldering the pink on. Got to make sure this emblem goes on right. We don't want to go flooding solder into all the chasing on the pink. It's a real ticklish bit of solder in this. Still got to get it fairly hot, 720 degrees it's got to get to eventually for the solder to run. But this is the point where things really can go wrong in a bad way, because you can see the flame going towards that base. That base will heat up very quickly, and you're concentrated on where you're soldering, and you're not looking an inch in front where the base is very thin and melting. So not one to be doing on a Monday morning after a Sunday night in the pub. Just checking everything's right before we finally get it on. Always take your time to get it right. Right, this is a dirty job. This is where you turn something that's all plain and white and everything, and it'll eventually come out nice and shiny. You can see you've got the spindle going there, and you'll put the polish on that little mop at the end. It's just a mixture of the polish is just a mixture of wax and pumice, and you put it on the mop, and you just hold it against it, and the job gets cleaner and you get dirtier. That's the basic thing. Can be dangerous. You don't fall asleep doing it. Put it like that. Especially if there's a lot of money in your hands, you don't want to let go of it and rattle it across the polishing shop floor. But it's just a case of if you're careful with the job while you're making it, you haven't got a hell of a lot of polishing to do with it. If there's no bad marks in it, you don't have to go mad on it. But just cleaning up the base there, getting in all the nooks and crannies. A bit on the outside now, keeping well away from the pink. You don't want to go polishing away the guild emblem after you've spent all that time on it, and it's easily done. All you got to do is hit it with a mop on the corner or something like that, and you'll take away a bit of the detail. Important process. It doesn't look right if it's not done properly, and it particularly when you sell it, we're trying to sell things or commission things, if they're badly polished, it lose you a sale. There you go, putting the stone in. The time old piece of blue tack for picking the stone up always works better than fingers. Drop it into the setting, then use a steel tool, push it over. Funny enough, which is called a push. Everybody calls it a push because it pushes the metal over. Be careful, depending what stone you're doing it on. That just gives a nice burnished edge to the setting. Once you push the metal over it crinkles the metal a little bit, so you just go over it with a burnisher, a brightly polished piece of steel. Just gives it a nice finish on the edge. it. This is the final polish around the emblem, around the gilt pink. Got to get this perfect into all the nooks and crannies with it's a very fine hair brush. I think it's goat's hair. Well, they tell us it's goat's hair anyway, the people who supply them. And some final finishing liquid there, some polish just to get in all those bits and make it look pretty good, because if it ain't polished properly, it's no good. This is all the way around the base. Same thing, plenty of polish on. All the polish flies in your face, but the silver comes up nice and shiny. Always a nightmare when you're polishing something with stones in, because if you slip, it's back to the beginning. If you put a big mark in the silver with that dentist drill that's going round there, and you've got to apply any heat to it to rectify it, that means all the stones have got to come out, and that's a dead loss, that is. It's a final finishing process. Get a nice soft wool mop on the polishing motor, get some liquid polish up at the inside of the vase, and just keep it moving. A little bit more on the base. Final polish is always not the trickiest, but it's always the one where you got your heart in your mouth, because if it's not right, you have to go all the way back through all the process of polishing. Get the outside done now. Get that nice big soft mop on there, finishing mop. Once you finish with that mop, it goes into a plastic bag and it's put away, so it doesn't get any dust or dirt or anything like that on it. I know it looks pretty filthy, but it gives a lovely finish to silver. The last thing you want is a bit of grit in it or anything like that, and then you're really in trouble. Nice dirty process again. Silver comes up nice and shiny, you get filthy.